My mom was gasping for air. The 911 operator said help was on the way. Sirens screamed down the street and then came to a dead stop. Why? Because Karen from the HOA decided her trash cans were more important than my mom's life. What happened? Next, I'll never forget. It started with a cough, just a dry, short one. "Mom, you okay?" I asked from the kitchen. She waved me off from the living room. "Just dust," she said, smiling like it was nothing. I poured her tea anyway. Chamomile. Her favorite. By the time I brought it over, she was leaning forward, both hands gripping her chest. "Mom?" She didn't answer. Her face was pale. Her eyes wide, panicked. Then came the wheezing, raspy and strained like every breath hurt. "Mom, say something." I dropped the mug. It shattered. I didn't care. I grabbed my phone and called 911 with trembling fingers. "1, what's your emergency?" "My mom, she can't breathe. I think she's having an asthma attack or something. I don't know." "Please, please hurry. Help is on the way. Is she conscious?" "Barely. She's gasping. She can't talk. Oh my God." "Stay calm. Can you check her breathing? Is she sitting upright?" "She's on her side." I'm trying to help her sit. "Please, just get them here now." I was on the verge of losing it. My hands were shaking, heart pounding out of control. I propped her up with a pillow, opened the windows, anything to get more air in the room. Every second felt like an hour. Then, I heard them. Sirens, louder, closer. I looked out the window. A red blur turned the corner. "They're here," I said, grabbing the door and running outside. I waved my arms like I was directing traffic. "Over here! This way!" The ambulance inched toward my driveway, and then it just stopped. "What? What are you doing? Keep coming!" I yelled. But they didn't move. I ran out further and saw what was blocking them. A silver SUV, parked diagonally. Dead in the middle of the street, and standing next to it, Karen. Of course. Her arms were crossed, her sunglasses on like she was too cool for a medical emergency. The EMT jumped out of the passenger side. "Ma'am, move your vehicle. We have an emergency." Karen tilted her head. "You're not allowed to use this street. It's private property. Emergency vehicles must enter through the rear gate. It's in the HOA handbook." "You think we read HOA handbooks on our way to save lives?" "Move the car," the EMT shouted. I sprinted toward them. "Karen, my mom's inside. She can't breathe. She could die." Karen turned to me like I was asking her for a favor during her spa day. "I'm sorry, but there are rules for a reason. If we let one ambulance break them, they'll all start doing it. You're blocking the entire street." She actually smirked. "Then next time, plan better. Maybe have your emergencies through the rear gate like everyone else." I swear, something inside me snapped. "Move your damn car." "I'm calling the HOA president," she said, pulling out her phone. The EMT ran back to the vehicle. They were already unloading the stretcher. "We're going in on foot." I turned back toward the house. "She's losing time. Hurry!" They grabbed their bags and bolted toward the front door, but not before one of them turned and screamed, "Call the police! She's interfering with a medical emergency." I did. Right there on the spot. "1, what's your emergency?" "Same address. You sent the ambulance?" "Yeah, now send the cops. A woman's blocking them from getting to my mom." Inside, the EMTs were working fast. "She's got shallow breathing," one said. "Pulse is weak. Starting oxygen." "Ma'am, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me." She barely moved. I stood by the wall, helpless, useless, shaking. "Is she going to be okay?" I asked. "We need to get her to the hospital, fast." "But the ambulance, we're carrying her." The EMTs lifted her onto the stretcher and carried her out the front door. Karen was still standing there, still hadn't moved her car, still hadn't budged an inch. "You could have cost her her life," I screamed. Karen looked at me completely, unfazed. "If she lives, she can thank the rules. We keep this neighborhood orderly for a reason." One of the EMTs turned to her. "You're going to be arrested." She didn't flinch. "Good. Maybe then we'll set an example." I watched them carry my mom around her SUV, weaving between the bushes, stepping over a garden hose, trying to get her to safety. All while, Karen stood there like a queen guarding her imaginary throne. I will never forget that look on her face. I was pacing the ER hallway like a maniac, heart still racing, palms soaked in sweat. She's stable, the nurse finally said. We'll monitor her overnight, but you brought her in just in time. Just in time. I should have felt relief, but I didn't. Not with Karen's smug face burned into my brain. So I drove straight home. And I swear, the second I pulled into the driveway, she was waiting, leaning against her porch post like she was sipping lemonade on a Sunday afternoon. Well, that was dramatic, she said. I stopped cold. You nearly killed my mom. Karen scoffed. Oh, please. She was breathing, wasn't she? She couldn't breathe. She was gasping like a fish. And you stood there and blocked an ambulance. I didn't block it. I parked. On my street. Karen, you were parked sideways. In the middle of the road, she tilted her head. The HOA clearly marks that this street is for residential use only. That includes no sirens, no flashing lights, and definitely no emergency traffic. So, your rulebook matters more than someone's life? Her smile didn't even crack. It's not about me. It's about standards. I took a step toward her. You could have moved. You chose not to. You're emotional. I get it. But we have these rules so things don't fall apart. You think if we let one ambulance in, the next thing you know, we've got food trucks, fireworks, loud music. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think saving my mom's life is the start of a slippery slope to a food truck invasion? Karen shrugged. Don't twist my words. I don't need to. You said them with a straight face. She leaned in just a little. If your family followed the HOA guidelines like the rest of us, maybe you wouldn't have emergencies. I blinked. Are you blaming my mom for having a medical episode? She's been coughing for weeks. I've heard it every morning while watering my begonias. Are you serious? I'm just saying, if you knew she was fragile, maybe you should have lived closer to the hospital instead of dragging this neighborhood into your drama. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. You're a monster, I said quietly. She smiled. I'm the vice president of this HOA. I enforce structure. You blocked emergency services. That's illegal. I didn't block them, she said. Again, this time more firmly. I was simply parked. If they can't maneuver around a parked car, maybe they shouldn't be an emergency response. Oh, don't worry, the cops will love that line. She paused. Cops? I called 911, reported you for obstruction. That's a criminal offense. Her smirk faltered for a split second. Just a flicker, but I saw it. You called the police? On me? You bet I did. You can't do that. I'm part of this community board. That makes it worse. She pointed her finger at me like she was about to lecture a toddler. You have no idea how HOA politics work. This entire block backs me up. I stepped back and pulled out my phone. Oh, I know how politics work, Karen. Especially when they're caught on camera. I pulled up my security app and tapped on the front porch feed. There she was, on the screen, arms crossed, sunglasses on, her SUV dead center in the street. The ambulance pulled up behind her, the EMT yelling. Her doing nothing. I held the screen up. Her eyes narrowed. Delete that. No. You can't record me without permission. You were outside, on public-facing property, blocking a medical response. You're lucky I don't upload this. To the neighborhood group chat, her lips tightened. This is harassment. This is evidence. She stormed back toward her house without another word. I could feel her rage in every stomp of her high heels. The next morning, I opened the front door and found an envelope taped to it. HOA letter of violation. Violation. Unauthorized emergency vehicle route causing neighborhood disruption. Fine. $450. I stood there laughing, loud, angry, and half crazy. She fined me. After all that, she actually tried to fine me. I walked straight across the lawn, no sidewalk, and pounded on her door. She opened it slowly, already dressed in that same smug expression and a pastel cardigan that screamed suburban dictator. What do you want now? She said, sipping coffee like nothing happened. You fined me? You disrupted the neighborhood. Loud sirens, emergency traffic, and public confrontation. That's 3 separate clauses. My mother nearly died, Karen. And the ambulance got to her, didn't it? Because I had to beg. Because you made them go around your car. I'm not responsible for how long emergency services take. You're responsible for being in the way. Karen put down her mug. You can appeal the violation at next month's HOA meeting. Until then, payment is due in 10 days. I stared at her, feeling my hands clench into fists. Is this personal? I asked. You've had a problem with my family since the day we moved in. I have a problem with people who think they're above the rules. The rule you broke was human decency. That's not in the handbook. And with that, she shut the door. Hard. I looked at the closed door for a few seconds, then turned around and walked home. But my mind was already racing. If she wanted to escalate things, fine. I was done playing nice. The sound of my mom's wheezing kept playing in my head like a broken record. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the EMTs struggling to get her through the bushes, around Karen's SUV, up the narrow path to the ambulance, all because one woman decided a power trip mattered more than a human life. The next morning, I visited my mom at the hospital. She smiled when she saw me, but her voice was weak. They told me, "You carried me outside," she said. I shook my head. "No, the EMTs did. You don't remember?" She blinked slowly. I remember flashing lights, someone shouting, and you crying. I sat down next to her bed. "You scared me." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "No, don't apologize. It's not you." She raised a brow. "Was it the HOA woman again?" I didn't say anything. That was answer enough. She nodded slowly. "Figures." When I got home, I had a voicemail waiting. "Hello, this is Janet Taylor, president of the Willowcrest HOA. We received notice of an altercation involving you and Vice President Karen Delaney. We'd like to remind all residents that emergency protocols must be followed as outlined in Section 4B of the Community Manual. Please attend the upcoming HOA hearing to discuss your behavior and response." Thank you. My behavior, I walked over to Karen's house, knocked 3 times. Hard. She opened it slowly, sipping iced tea like she was expecting me. "Did you seriously report me to the HOA board?" Karen smiled like it was Christmas morning. "Of course I did. You threatened a board member and caused a scene. Multiple neighbors heard you shouting. You blocked paramedics from saving my mom, and you're worried about me shouting? There's a process for these things." "You don't need a process to move your damn car," she sipped. "There are rules." She was crying, Karen. Crying for air. She looked me in the eyes like she was dying, and you were out here arguing about driveway access. Karen leaned against the door frame. "It's not personal. You fined me, and you still haven't paid, which will incur a late fee. I recommend handling it quickly. The board doesn't like delinquents." I stared at her, stunned. "You care more about paperwork than people. Paperwork keeps things running. Without rules, this place falls apart. Then burn the rules." She blinked. "Excuse me? If your rules justify letting someone suffer on their own front, lawn, they're worthless." Karen narrowed her eyes. "I'm going to pretend you didn't just say that." "Don't. I want you to hear it, loud and clear." She shook her head. "You're emotional. You'll regret this." "You're right. I am emotional. Because you stood there and watched my mom struggle to breathe and did nothing. She didn't die. You say that like it makes you a hero." Karen stepped out onto the porch. "Let me make this simple. If you don't want more fines, stop causing scenes. Stop harassing board members. And follow the handbook like everyone else." "So that's how this works? You block the ambulance, I get punished?" She gave me a tight-lipped smile. "Welcome to Willowcrest." I took a deep breath. "You're unbelievable. No, I'm consistent. That's why people voted for me." I turned and started walking. Away, but she wasn't done. "You should be grateful, you know," she called out. I stopped. "Grateful?" I asked, turning around. I could have pressed charges. For the yelling. For showing that video around the block. Defamation. I laughed. Out loud. "Defamation?" "Karen, the footage shows what happened. It doesn't show the full context. You're right. It doesn't show the part where the whole neighborhood should have been helping and only one person stood in the way." "You're twisting it," she said. "I'm telling the truth." Karen crossed her arms. "Well, truth or not, the board will decide. And they don't look kindly on troublemakers." I'm not the one causing trouble. I'm the one cleaning up the mess you made. She was quiet for a second. Then, maybe, if you spent less time yelling and more time being a compliant neighbor, none of this would have happened. I just shook my head and walked away. I needed to breathe before I did something I'd regret. Later that day, I got a message from our neighborhood group chat. It was from Lisa, who lived 3 doors down. "Hey, I saw what happened. I recorded part of it from my ring cam. You want the clip?" I messaged back immediately. "Yes, please." She sent the footage. A perfect view of Karen standing in the street. Ambulance sirens blaring. Me shouting. Karen yelling about rules, no edits, no context needed. I uploaded it anonymously to the HOA Facebook group with the caption, "When HOA rules mean more than human lives." This happened on our block yesterday. In less than an hour, it had 47 comments. Then 80, then 150. People were pissed. Unreal. She blocked an ambulance? She's done. This is what we voted for? This is what happens when people take HOA titles too seriously. Karen tried to comment under it. "This is a manipulated video. Please report the post." Nobody did. The next day, she posted a long paragraph about respecting rules and how emergency personnel must follow community policies like everyone else. It had 3 likes and 62 angry face emojis. I didn't need to say anything else. She was burying herself. I didn't wake up that morning planning to lose it. But then again, I hadn't planned on my mom nearly dying in our front yard either. And I definitely hadn't planned on Karen walking around the block like nothing happened. Like she hadn't just become a neighborhood villain in a pastel cardigan. The video had gone semi-viral in our HOA Facebook group. Comments were flying in non-stop. A few of Karen's defenders still piped up here and there, but the overwhelming tone was outrage. Someone even posted, "She blocked the medics. I saw it with my own eyes. This isn't leadership, it's cruelty." I thought maybe, the backlash would humble her. Nope. That afternoon, I caught her red-handed again. This time, it was a fire truck. No sirens, just lights. They were on our street responding to a report from a nearby house, something about a kitchen fire. Nothing massive, but they needed access. And there she was, parked diagonally. Again. This time she had the nerve to stand by her SUV holding a clipboard. A clipboard. I walked over. Fast. "What the hell are you doing?" She didn't even flinch. "Monitoring. There's been a lot of unauthorized vehicle activity lately." "That's a fire truck, Karen. They're not responding to your house, are they?" "It doesn't matter whose house it is. Get out of the way. They're damaging the landscaping. This is why we enforce driveway-only traffic." I looked over. The fire truck was stopped halfway down the street, firefighters shaking their heads, trying to figure out if they had enough room to squeeze past. "You're really doing this again?" Karen clicked her pen. "I'm just recording the vehicle access points. HOA policy requires—" I cut her off. "Give me your keys," she laughed. "Excuse me? Give me your damn keys." "Absolutely not." I took a step closer. "I'm not asking. You're threatening a board member again. That's grounds for—" I snatched the keys straight from her hand. She screamed like I'd stolen her purse. "That's assault. Give those back." But I was already unlocking her SUV. I opened the driver door and put it in neutral. She was still shrieking behind me, yelling about calling the police, screaming that I'd crossed a line. I didn't care. I started pushing. It wasn't easy. Her SUV was a chunky thing, but adrenaline's a powerful drug. The firefighters saw what I was doing and started walking over. One of them nodded at me. "Need a hand?" "Please." 2 of them joined me. Together we rolled that tank of a vehicle back onto her driveway like it belonged there in the first place. Karen was yelling the whole time. "You're damaging HOA property. You're moving a personal vehicle without consent. You're trespassing." One of the firefighters turned to her and said, "Ma'am, if you interfere again, you'll be facing obstruction charges. Let us do our job." Karen's mouth fell open. I tossed her keys on the grass at her feet. "There," I said. "Now you're on your own driveway, like a normal person." "You're going to jail," she shouted, pointing at me. But no one was listening. Even the neighbors had come outside at this point. People peeking out from porches and behind bushes. Someone clapped. No joke. Then another person joined in, and before I knew it, there was a full-on round of applause. Karen looked around, stunned. "You're all okay with this? You're siding with him?" Someone shouted back, "We're siding with decency, Karen." Another neighbor added, "Try blocking a fire truck next time. Maybe they'll hose you down." She turned bright red. Thought she was going to burst a blood vessel right there. She stormed inside and slammed her door so hard I felt it from across the lawn. 10 minutes later, I got a text from an unknown number. "You've just committed multiple violations. The HOA board will be informed." I replied, "Good. I hope they're watching the group chat too." That night, I got a knock on my door. It wasn't Karen, it was Janet, HOA president, middle-aged, polite, fake smile plastered on like wallpaper. "Evening," she said. "Do you have a minute?" I stepped outside. "What now?" "I just came by to advise that what you did today was highly irregular." So was Karen blocking another emergency vehicle. She was gathering information. She was interfering. Again, Janet sighed. "Look, I don't love how Karen handled things either. But she's part of the board, and there are protocols for addressing these matters. She's not above the law. No one is. That's why I'm here. The board's going to hold a special meeting. We'll review the footage, the complaints, and what happened today." "Good. Maybe she'll finally face consequences." Janet raised an eyebrow. "Don't expect fireworks. The board tends to move slowly. Tell them to speed it up, because if they won't do something, I will." "That sounds like a threat." "No, that's a promise." She didn't like that answer, but she nodded and walked away. And just like that, the war was officially on. The special HOA meeting was packed. I'd never seen so many people actually show up for one before. Usually it was just a few retirees, Karen and Janet sipping lemon water in a folding chair circle. But this time, every seat was full. People were standing in the back. Someone even brought popcorn. Karen sat up front with her arms crossed, still pretending she wasn't the center of a wildfire. Janet opened the meeting with her usual calm, robotic tone. "Thank you all for coming. Today's session concerns recent neighborhood disruptions, HOA policy enforcement, and an incident involving emergency service access." People mumbled. A few laughed quietly. She glanced at her notes. "We'll begin with a resident statement. Mr. Westbrook, you have the floor." That was me. I stood up, heart thudding. I looked around at the faces. Neighbors I'd lived next to for years but barely spoken to. Now, all eyes were on me. 3 days ago, I said. My mom had a medical emergency. I called an ambulance. It arrived within minutes, but it couldn't reach our house because someone had parked an SUV across the only open path. I looked directly at Karen. She was standing there. Not helping, not moving, just arguing. While my mother lay on the ground, gasping for air, the room went dead silent. I could feel it. The shift. I pulled out my phone. Held it up. This is the footage from Lisa's Ring cam. Many of you have already seen it. If you haven't, I hope you do. It shows exactly what happened. Janet raised her hand. "Let's refrain from displaying the footage live. We'll review it privately after." "Fine," I said. "But everyone here knows what they saw. This isn't about noise complaints or garbage bins anymore. This is about life and death. And the fact that someone thought HOA policy mattered more than a human being." A few heads nodded. Someone in the back said, "Damn right. I wasn't done." Yesterday, she did it again. Parked diagonally across the street and blocked a fire truck responding to another house. I took matters into my own hands. Yeah, I moved her car, and I'd do it again. Karen jumped to her feet. "He stole my keys." I didn't look at her. "I pushed her car back into her own driveway because she wouldn't move it," I said. With the help of 2 firefighters who were also pissed off. People clapped. Karen turned red. "You're all applauding theft now? That's what this community has become?" Someone shouted. "We're applauding someone who actually helped." Janet raised both hands. "Let's keep this civil." I took a breath. "My mom could have died," I said, quieter now. "And The only thing standing between her and help was a person with a clipboard and a grudge. I sat down. Janet looked flustered. She shuffled her notes. Karen was practically vibrating. "I have documentation," she said. "Screenshots, logs, community bylaws that clearly state—" "Karen," someone interrupted from the back. "We've all read the damn bylaws." It was Greg. He lived 2 houses down. "Your SUV shouldn't be anywhere except your driveway unless it's moving," he said. "You know that. You wrote that rule." Karen stammered. "I was documenting—" "Then document from the sidewalk." Janet cleared her throat. "Okay, enough. The board has heard both sides. Now we'll take comments from other residents before voting on action." The line to speak was longer than I expected. First up, Lisa. "I've lived here for 10 years. I've seen my fair share of HOA drama. But I've never seen someone block paramedics before. That's not just poor judgment. That's cruelty." Next, Angela. "My dad died waiting for an ambulance back in 2017. Watching that footage, it gave me chills. Karen, you should be ashamed." Then, Brian. "I'm a firefighter. Not for this district, but I know what delays cost. You waste 1 minute. It's the difference between recovery and a funeral." Karen looked like she wanted the earth to swallow her whole. More people spoke. Every single one of them backed me. Janet looked more stressed by the second. Finally, after nearly an hour of comments, the board retreated into the back room to deliberate. They were gone for 20 minutes. When they came back out, Janet took a deep breath before speaking. "The board has voted unanimously to issue a formal censure to Vice President Karen Delaney for obstruction of emergency services and abuse of power." The room erupted in applause. Karen stood up like she was going to object, but Janet wasn't done. "Furthermore, we are suspending Ms. Delaney from all HOA duties for a period of 60 days, effective immediately. During this time, she may not enforce any rules, attend board meetings, or represent the HOA in any official capacity." Now that got a standing ovation. Karen's face fell like a house of cards. "You can't do this," she said to Janet, voice shaking. "We're supposed to be on the same side." Janet looked right at her. "We're supposed to protect the community, not endanger it." Karen grabbed her clipboard and stormed out, muttering under her breath. I didn't follow her, didn't say anything. I just stood there as people clapped me on the back, shook my hand, and thanked me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like my voice had actually done something. The next day, Karen's SUV was parked neatly in her driveway, and she wasn't out walking the neighborhood with her clipboard. She wasn't anywhere. Peace had returned. And my mom, she was recovering, getting stronger, smiling more. "You saved me," she said one night as we sat on the porch. "No," I said. "You saved me."